Our first guest is a Pro Football Hall of Famer that you can catch every single day with Nick Wright on FS1. First things first, along with Jenna Wolfe as well, from 6:30 to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can catch this gentleman on the call with Schlereth and Stockton of Panthers at Browns this Sunday on Fox. That game's taking place in the state of Ohio. Cris Carter on the program. How are you, Cris?
Rich, how you doing, man?
I'm just thrilled that you're here. I really am, man, because I love watching you. I love your take, and I'm here to take it. If you care to dish it out, Cris. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you, Rich. I got you. I come in peace.
That's greatly appreciated. All right, so let's get into it. Why did Urban step down, Cris? What do you think here? What can you tell me?
It's surely health. We've talked about it. Urban just happens to be one of my close personal friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I wasn't involved in the process, but I was one of the people a little over a month ago when him and Gene Smith, athletic director at OSU, started having conversations about what his overall health was, potentially moving forward, what was going to be the best. So he did confide in me over a month ago that this was one of the three options that he was facing. The other two options weren't great options either. And so I know it took a lot out of him, his family, Shelly, the kids, met with his wife this weekend before the Northwestern game. So I think there is a sense of relief because there is a danger every time he goes out there, every time that he is in full coaching mode, trying to encourage, trying to get a message across that he jeopardizes the potential of that cyst leaking, and when it does, he gets these massive headaches. In the Indiana game we saw where it made him double over. He was on one knee there, struggling to try to get his wits about himself. So that's not something any of his friends or family ever wanted to see again. So there was real dangers in him continuing to coach.
So then when he's doubled over in the Maryland game and it's a crucial moment in the game and everybody's huddling up a few yards away from the sideline trying to figure out what to do, and he's doubled over, not even in that huddle. That's what one of these episodes was, Cris?
Yeah, there were a couple. The Maryland, the Indiana. The Indiana was the most prominent because that's, I think, when people first that was their first glimpse of him. And but that's the reality. When you have the cyst the size of a tennis ball, in your brain, that is his overall reality, and his overall reality as far as his body failing him, where he can't be on the sideline anymore.
So, Cris Carter, Hall of Famer, here on the Rich Eisen Show, one of the all-time Ohio State greats here from FS1 as well on the Rich Eisen Show. So, when his wife hugged him at the end of that Michigan game, the game against Michigan, it looked to me when I saw it like that looked like a family that knew that was their last day in the horseshoe. Did he know at that point in time, Cris?
I wouldn't say that he knew, but just getting through that game and not being a hindrance to the kids with the opportunity for some seniors to go 4-0 against Michigan, to be able to move on, potentially to be able to get into the playoffs, get into the Big Ten championship, all those things. But right there, you could see, you've been around sports long enough, Rich, that there was a lot of relief there. A guy that's won 3 national championships, he beats his rival Michigan to go 7-0 against them the last 7 years. But that wasn't just a hug about that. It was something deeper, and you're right, you sensed it, a sense of relief from that family. And what that Michigan game, Urban was worrying about being a distraction for the kids, a distraction for the university, and to be able to get through that and the way the kids played. The way the kids took to the coaching that week, that was what that hug and that embrace and those tears were about.
Well, and I've been around, as you said, sports long enough. I've also been around coaches long enough. They never, ever, ever get it out of their system. Never, ever, ever, with a capital EVER, get it out of their system. Mm-hmm. Do you think in a couple years he feels better, he's not feeling the pain from the cyst, or it does improve, that he does coach again?
No, I definitely think that was the last we'll see of him that would be in the Rose Bowl. I think that Urban, and we've just talked about other outlets that he can utilize his coaching, his leadership ability. in other capacities. So we do believe like he does have an afterlife, after coaching. But you are right. I'm glad that he does have a medical condition compared to what we've seen, because there's nothing that replaces playing. There's nothing that replaces coaching. And that's why we've seen people teeter-totter, playing and are coaching. And you're right. If he didn't have that cyst, or I didn't know the family, know the wife, like he's got real life issues as far as moving forward. And what's the best way for him to be so that he can enjoy the rest of his life? Coaching won't be a part of it.
Last one on this subject then, Cris. Do you think that what happened with Zach Smith and the suspension in the 3 games played into just maybe the physical tiredness on top of his brain cyst to lead to this decision at all, Cris?
No, I don't think that Zach, because, Urban took some heat for that, and rightfully so. I mean, when you run a program, man, the buck stops at the dude who's making the shot. So if it's right, if it's wrong, you're always going to get some heat when you don't know your assistants as intimately as you think you expect a head coach. So you're going to get some heat from that. But I know Urban. I know him well enough. And, Rich, I would tell you, and we had talked in the last year about Urban coaching another 4 or 5 years. Urban thought he had the program in the position that he can make a run, a couple more national championships. He talked about potentially 2 out of the next 4, potentially getting into the playoffs and having the opportunity to win. So with the type of talent they have, their quarterback's a sophomore. They got another good quarterback of 100 him, Tate Martell. If trust me, with this type of team out there, Urban would stay out there. That's the way you resolve the Zach Smith. You outlast it and you keep winning. So, no, I believe it did wear on him because his overall image and what people thought about him as a leader, it took a hit. But, no, it didn't lead to the cyst growing. It didn't lead to the cyst, rupturing and fluid being released into him. No, that part didn't. But it did. It did take a toll on Urban personally.
And before we get to the NFL, one last one on this. How does it work with him being around? Ryan Day, as you point out, has a great setup. There's no way to describe it other than a great setup, but one assumes he will not win 82 of his first 91. I mean, that's purple unicorn stuff. So how with him there, if Ryan Day does have the usual struggles of a first-year head coach or somebody who's never done it before or isn't going to win 82 of his first 91, how does it work with the pressures and Urban being there physically?
Well, I think that right now everyone's looking for the new Sean McVay. Who's going to be the next Sean McVay? Urban and Gene Smith feel like they have the next Sean McVay in college football in Ryan Day. So they have great expectations for him. The program is in as good a shape or as it could ever been for a new coach. And I think this is important. I think a lot of people miss this when you get a new coach. And we have the benefit of we didn't do a national search. So we don't have our fan base splintered. Oh, man, they should have hired this guy. Oh, they should have hired this guy. We have all the support from Buckeye Nation going to one person. The roster is stacked. In every decade, look at Ohio State the last 100 years. They have won in every decade. So why would I be concerned? I'm not concerned at all. People were concerned, could Urban live up to what Trussell did? I think he did that and added to the history a little bit. So we're very, very confident in Ryan Day moving forward. But more importantly, as a university and as a fan base, we're all moving in the same direction to make sure that he gets the same support that Urban and every other coach got at the Ohio State.
All right, Cris, let's move on to the game you're calling. This is a pretty big one, man, with the Panthers now suddenly 6-6. It seems like the new owner there might have an itchy trigger finger for Ron Rivera. And with the way that Mayfield and the Browns have been playing now 2-2 under Greg Williams, this could be a potential type, a Mike McCarthy game. I'm not saying they're going to bounce him right in the middle of the season, but this would be this has all the makings of the Browns making life very difficult for Carolina. How do you see it that you're calling this game?
Well, first of all, when you're talking about Cleveland, Richie, you've been watching them, and yes, it's equated to wins and everything, but man, they got a good roster. They got a good offensive line. They got a good defensive line. They play some good defense under Greg Williams. So it's not as if you're just going into Cleveland late, and you're in a tailspin. and you're going to get potentially upset by a Cleveland team that's not very, very talented. No, they have a good quarterback. He's young in Baker Mayfield. So this is a tremendous challenge. And when you have a new owner, you like to be able to sit around and be like, okay, what's going to be his style? Now, the owner there, he did come from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but that don't mean he's going to be as patient as the Steelers nation has been. It'd be hard for any organization to be as patient, as great, and supportive as they have. So it's something to watch. Behind the scenes, Ron Rivera, is it fair? He got a new owner. But the last 3 years, he's had a new defensive coordinator, Sean McDermott, now coaching in Buffalo. Last year's defensive coordinator coaching in Arizona. So him taking over the defense from Eric Washington, how they finish these last 4 games, I believe it could tilt the scale not only to Ron Rivera, but ultimately is Cam Newton the quarterback in Carolina? I believe those are 2 questions that Carolina winning games will help them and to be able to help get answers or get those things resolved.
Well, and as you know, quarterback-driven league. You just talked about Cam and your one of your old teams, the Minnesota Vikings. A dreadful day in Foxborough, which happens to a lot of people for Kirk Cousins. But this is his first foray of his guaranteed contract. Now he goes to Seattle. Do you think he's got what it takes for the Vikings to get to where they want to go, Chris?
Yeah, Rich, I like Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk is a really good quarterback. I think he throws. I think his arm is really underrated, the tough throws that he can make. But just from a game plan standpoint, you have Adam Thielen having an outstanding season. You have Diggs having an outstanding season. Now, Diggs has been nicked up the last several weeks, so it's kind of slowed up his productivity. But if you're going to attack a New England defense, all right, because it's not the same challenge going to Seattle. You know, I know we say all these young coordinators, they're exciting and everything, but I was a little disappointed in DeFilippo because I thought you underutilized the tight end all season, all right? Dalvin Cook is underutilized. Now, he hadn't been healthy, but going there, you have to utilize those 2 positions. New England is not going to let a wide receiver beat them. I mean, so they just doubled the guys outside, played single coverage, and either they played way, way off or they blitzed a whole bunch. So, and when you blitz, they make you so hot, so they make you not convert on 3rd down. So, to me, I didn't like the game planning, and I'm not going to criticize Kirk Cousins. When you don't use your tight ends, you don't use your running backs the right way, I'm looking at other things there in Minnesota to be able to help support Kirk. If Dalvin Cook's healthy and that offensive line is good, they should be a very, very explosive offense. But I'm still a little concerned of how they're packaging their talent and how they're presenting it on a weekly basis.
And then what do you think's going on in the Redskins locker room right now, Chris? They're half game behind the Vikings for the wild card. They're a game out of first place. They are flat out in this mix, and Colin Kaepernick isn't even being brought in. They said they were considering, Jay Gruden said yesterday they were considering him, but he's not a fit for this offense to get him up to speed in time for the end of this season. But I guess Josh Johnson is. I know that he might have had more history. He hasn't thrown a pass since 2011. I'm wondering what you think of all this.
Rich, it's criminal. We know Colin is well enough, but people's politics are getting in the way of their football. You have certain organizations, they have supported what's going on in Washington, and which in turn they have helped. That has bled into how they're going to fill out their roster. Now, I just don't understand how a guy can slap a female, allegedly, in Reuben Foster on a Saturday, and then me and the rest of my organization decide we're going to put in a claim for him, and he deserves to play for our team. But Colin Kaepernick, because of his social justice, because he wants to make people aware of what's going on, he can't play for your team. Oh, but Josh Johnson can play for your team? Like, okay, so you letting something get in the way. So let the Redskins fans know this. You're not going to put the best football team on the field. You're going to put a team out there that you're going to pick and choose, and it's not going to be the best players. The thing with Cap that upsets me is, Rich, we've been preaching this. We work with the network. We work with the NFL. We tell people week in and week out, this is the 1,700 best players in the world. We can't say that no more because they have decided that Cap shouldn't be a part of the league. So we can't even stand behind the shield and say that no more. So now it's not necessarily about the best players. So we've been about the best. When the NFL gets back to being about the best, Colin Kaepernick will be in a uniform and on the NFL sideline.
Yeah, I mean, to me, we should be past this at this point. I mean, it's. I'm serious though. And it's kind of like, you know, and I see fans on Twitter say, you know, I'd rather lose out all the rest of our games. Well, guess what? You're going to get what you wish for. I mean, did you not see the Monday Night Football game? The Giants are coming to town.
Just like you and I communicating, Rich. It would be idiotic for you and I to say, you know something, I'm not going to have people from Ohio State involved in my program. When I get on TV, I'm not going to talk about them. Cris Carter's not going to talk about Michigan. Oh, I hate Charles Woodson. Like, that's stupid. Like, it's stupid. Michigan, Ohio State going to be part of the National Football League, all right? So, and it'd be smart for us to include them and their players and their coaches in the conversation.
Yeah. By the way, one of our, you know, show bookers right here in studio, she went to Ohio State, and it's been very difficult, Cris, to come to work lately. I'll be very honest with you.
Yeah, I understand, man. How many days has it been since y'all victory
you
against?
came in peace.
How many days?
You said you were coming in peace. It's
but I leave with a little grenade.
Cris, man, I love chatting with you. Thanks for calling in, and say hi to Nick Wright and everybody else there at First Things First.
I will. Rich, keep up the good work, too, man. You know I'm a big, big fan of yours.
Right back at you. That's Cris Carter, Pro Football Hall of Famer, at Cris, CRIS, Carter 80 on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.